James Bond, and I'm licensed to kill. There's a royal premiere tonight. It's the latest Bond, The Spy Who Loved Me. It has women, action, and me. So have you tonight on Nationwide at 6:20. I'm Roger Moore, so watch The Spy Who Loved Me, and you'll love James Bond. It still works on the third take.
Mr. Moore, why do you think you were chosen to play the Saint?
Because Sean Connery wasn't available.
No, let's have a truthful answer.
I tried to buy the show 5 years, or 6 years ago. I tried to buy the rights, but I didn't have enough money at the time, or Leslie Charteris wasn't interested in selling to television, which put the price up. So when I was approached, I was delighted to do it. I felt it was a character for a running TV series, that had a built-in premise, so part Superman, a natural hero. Things one's not allowed to do on television because of censorship. The hero must always be white. I think that a hero, heroes don't exist as far as I'm concerned. I think that people who've read the books know that the Saint was a crook, although we never say it in television. And for this reason, he has a double interest. He has another aspect to his character.
You enjoy packing punches?
Yes, I like to win, because in life I'm a devout coward. I have a yellow streak on my back to prove it. What I really like about playing the Saint is I've been under contract to MGM, to Warner Brothers, and to Columbia, and always playing heroes that were, true blue. But I was never allowed to be photographed with a cigarette or a drink in my hand. And now, I play the Saint, it doesn't matter.
But with all these series you've been in, have you got any stories to tell us about the dangerous moments you've had when you perhaps packed a punch and received a broken leg in return?
Well, when I first started Ivanhoe, we were doing a sword fight on horseback, and this is before I started wearing gloves as the character. And one day it was 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we're out in the field, and we had about 6 or 7 horses charging at me with great screams of, "Hey, Venu!" I went into the battle. Someone came in with a sword straight on my finger, and the nail came shooting off. So I said, "Cut, please," and stopped, and they put an adhesive tape on. And then we went back into action again. The next cut took the adhesive tape off. So they put the adhesive tape back on. By this time, I really don't know what day it is. And we started charging in again. The saddle slipped. I ended up underneath the horse. This shouts of, "Hey, Venu," and I'm saying, "Cut, cut, please, cut." And I got up and I went home.
Maverick, Ivanhoe, and the Saint, I'd say that Roger Moore never had it so good. What is the attraction behind playing in these long-running series?
Money.
That wasn't the end of the interview. Here, for your eyes only, are some fascinating outtakes displaying Roger's famous sense of humour.
At home, you'll see the glossy finished article. What you don't often see are the moments where we're not quite so smoothly professional.
I think after playing the Saint, you now have enough money to buy the series.
No, actually, I've been paid in Green Shield stamps, and I now have enough to have a trip to Mallorca and buy a washing machine.
The man who created the Saint describes him as having a quick wit, built to pack punches, and with an eye for pretty girls. Is this you? Let's start with the girls first.
Yes.
Go on.
A quick punch now, and I don't know about wit.
You've been in Maverick, you were Beauregard Maverick, you played Ivanhoe, and now the Saint. You must have worked with any number of actresses. You've gone through the whole lot. How do actresses rate as women?
Let's try that again, shall we? Take 2.
You've played Beauregard Maverick, Ivanhoe, and now the Saint. You've been through plenty of actresses in your time. How do actresses rate as women?
You can't say that.
Well, television for a director is very good. It's good training ground, because you have to direct off the top of your head. You have to do your homework at night, be ready for any eventuality, and be able to change. It's all very fast. And I would really love to direct a feature that I am not in, where I don't have to direct myself.
The way I shot was mainly from Simon Templar's point of view. So I would set up a master shot, and I would have the camera move over my shoulder, and now I'm back behind the lens, I'm the director, and Simon Templar's giving the lines off. And at the end of the day, send everybody home, and I do my close-ups talking to the script girl. It was much quicker. And also, I didn't have anybody to argue with.
Hi.
Whose bunk is that?
Yours.
Or maybe that one is. Haven't decided yet. Right, Hal?
Yeah, that's right.
Then decide now.
So you're the saint.
It's hard to overstate just how successful The Saint was. 6 series, comprising nearly 120 episodes, it was a huge international hit and made Roger one of the most famous faces on the planet. Not bad for a man who was once best known for modelling knitwear.
A friend of mine was a photographer who said that I could earn 30 bob an hour modelling a knitting pattern or something. From then on, I was sort of inundated with work. I managed to push it up to 2 quid an hour. And I got to the stage where I was able to farm out work if I couldn't do it.
The jumper modelling meant Michael Caine would nickname Roger the Big Knit. So how did the Big Knit become an acting knight? Roger never liked talking about his private life. He rarely discussed his 4 marriages, or the fact that for a while he had a wife far more famous than he was, the world singing star Dorothy Squires. But this exchange with Michael Parkinson does at least throw some light on how he got the acting bug.
I've always wondered about you. Were in fact you were a good-looking child?
Was I a good-looking
Yes.
child?
Yes.
No, I was rather fat, I think.
Were you?
Yeah.
And spotty?
Fat and spotty. And I was a little overweight. My father always used to get furious with me with, schoolboys' raincoats, those blue ones. And he would pull that belt and he'd say I'd look like a sack of, you can't say it, tied up ugly in the middle.
Yeah. What were their ambitions for you, your parents? Because your dad was a
To get thin, I think.
To get thin, yeah. Did they have any theatrical ambition for you?
No. My father was keen on amateur dramatics, and he was in the police, and he organised the Dramatic Society for E Division, and he used to produce and direct and star and do the makeup and build the scenery. It was a one-man show.
You went, of course. I mean, you started acting, but then your career was, as it was interrupted by national service. You went into the forces. You were commissioned as well. Were you a dashing subaltern?
Well, yes, I suppose I was. By that time, I'd lost weight. The only reason they commissioned me, I looked good in uniform.
Really?
I looked like a hero.
Did you
Little did they know.
Did you enjoy it, the army life?
Well, I was determined not to. My first 6 weeks, basic training, and I think Bury St Edmunds. It was really Bury St Roger up there. It was so cold. And the sergeant would always say to me, I knew nothing about the army except my mother's family army. My mother was born in India in barracks. My grandfather was the senior RSM in the British Army in the First World War. And so I was rather a disgrace not wanting to go. And I was dragged in, I had yellow jaundice. And I was doing a season ashore at Cambridge. And when you have jaundice, you have peculiar symptoms apart from yellow eyes and,
Yes.
and a jaundiced skin, that when they ask you to deposit, over there, says the doctor.
Yes.
And it was a very strange sort of colour, and they passed me A1.
Really?
Yeah. So now you know why they commissioned me. They were desperate.
They put you in the wax?
No, but the sergeant would always say to me, I remember he says, I call for you, lad. And I thought he meant that I was going in the the optician's branch of the medical corps. What he meant was intelligence corps.
Yeah.
And anyway, they commissioned me. And then I was fortunate enough to get transferred to entertainment.
When you went to Hollywood, was this your great ambition to get to the film capital?
Well, I think Hollywood well, in those days, I don't know today, but as a struggling young actor, Hollywood, I mean, if you're English, was absolutely wonderful place to go.
Mm. And what was your first impression of it? Did it live up to expectation or what?
Oh, yes, it was everything I imagined. would always walk up to people like Gary Cooper. I thought I knew them. I'd been brought up with them on the screen, you know. And so I'd say, hello, you know. And you wonder where you get the blank from.
What do you remember your first movie?
The last time I saw Paris.
Is that all you want to say about it?
Yeah, I remember it distinctly because I was signed by MGM. And I arrived to start the contract on April the 1st, April Fool's Day, which was an appropriate day for me to arrive in Hollywood. And I did it with Elizabeth Taylor and Van Johnson. And I knew nothing about pictures. And I remember Dick Brooks had a reputation of being a shouting director. And he was really going mad my first day on the set, not with me, but he was going mad with the censor. Or the girl from the censor's office, because she'd come down to say that the camera was too high and Liz Taylor's cleavage was exposing too much, and he started in such language. I was quite embarrassed. It was terrible.
Well, you were, in fact, of course, you were in that line of the good-looking English leading actor, weren't you? Probably the last in that line, weren't you, to go to Hollywood? I mean, there was, what, Stu Granger for you?
Stuart Granger, James Mason, Michael Wilding.
Yes.
All at MGM and Edmund Purdom.
Yes, right, yes. What was the reception like for you there? Was there any hostility at all?
Well, they weren't going to put up with any more from an Englishman, you know, and so I learned to smile a great deal. Because I can remember my first job in rep when I came out of the army, the director said, "You're not very good, you know." He says, "Smile when you come on." So I smiled ever since.
Did you have a sort of clenched look about you then?
Yeah, I guess so. I remember in Hollywood, when I was going to play the Duke of Wellington's nephew in a film called The Miracle, they said, "Would you mind sort of working on your English accent?" I said, what's wrong with my accent? What they meant was that I spoke with my teeth together. I muttered all the time like that because I was afraid of what was going to come out.
There's a marvellous phrase you used once. You said that after the movies and MGM, you went through the treadmill of television. And in fact, actually, it was a treadmill for you, but it did in fact establish you, didn't it? I mean, things like The Saint, particularly.
Well, The Saint. I mean, I made 120 episodes, I think, and it was shown in every country in the world apart from Red China and Russia. So it had, at some point, an enormous audience. Not that they necessarily liked you, but they knew who you were.
Roger filmed his final episode of The Saint in 1969, the same year that he married his third wife, Louisa Mattioli, after several years of waiting for Dorothy Squires to grant him a divorce.
Yourself down when people ask you about acting, because you do, don't you?
Well, I've stopped doing that.
You have?
No, I now say I'm marvellous.
You do? That's all right. What caused the change of heart?
The critics started believing.
You always claim that you can't act.
No, I didn't say I used to. Then I started saying I could.
Yeah.
And then they started arguing with me. So I gone back the other way.
George Lazenby's stint as Bond hadn't worked out. Sean Connery's comeback was for one film only. Producers Harry Saltzman and Cubby Broccoli needed a new 007. Roger lost the weight he'd gained from champagne and high living in The Persuaders. He had a haircut and accepted his license to kill. He was 45.
Well, I came into it after he was very well established. And obviously I couldn't play it in the same way, so I had to have a different approach. And I'm a lighter sort of actor than Sean.
How did you categorize? Did you think a great deal about how you were going to approach this part? Did you attempt to motivate yourself? And
Well, I thought about
sort
the
of
money.
method school of acting stuff? Just the money, eh?
No. My only worry ever about doing it was being, the comparison with Sean, was that I would say to myself, my name is Bond, James Bond, but I would hear it in my mind, my name is Bond, James Bond. I mustn't do that. Very difficult.
Have you changed the role at all? Have you considered you playing it exactly the same way each time?
I think we have injected a little more humour.
Yeah, it seems to me to be more and more for laughs and more enormous effects.
Well, I think, you see, Bond films are so outrageous, the stunts are so outrageous, everything is, beyond belief. I mean, there is no such thing as a spy who can walk anywhere in the world and every bartender recognise him and says, Mr. Bond, a vodka martini shaken, not stirred. It's ridiculous. Spies aren't like that, are they? They're sort of unknown faces. that would pass in a crowd and not be noticed. Real spies. So you might be good for the part. No, anyway. Thank you. On my side.
Can we talk about the knocks? I mean, I don't know how you react to a good or bad publicity, but the Bond films, inevitably, when you took over from Sean Connery, because it was new and because it was different, people all said, oh, well, Roger Moore is not my idea of 007, and he's not like Sean Connery, and it's all a great failure. I mean, do you mind that kind of hammering?
No, not really, because I say it before they do. No, it is always nice to get a good notice. You know,
you do like a good notice, yeah?
Well, of course you do, but you don't take any notice if they're bad. And so by the same token, I shouldn't take any notice of the good ones.
Yes.
Not that there are many, but still, people still pay to see the films. I think the first time they went to see Live and Let Die was just to see if I was going to be as bad as they thought I would be. Now, this one is doing equal business, in some countries even better. So maybe it's a different audience that hadn't seen Live and Let Die. You never can tell.
Have you played much comedy before?
According to the critics, all the time. But anything that was seriously called a comedy, no, I haven't.
Is comedy, and I'm shouting a bit because of the... I think they're rearranging the sets back.
Well, they're all critics.
Is playing comedy much more difficult than playing Bond?
Well, it's an entirely different technique. The important thing of comedy is timing. It really is very simple. Not that Bond makes people cry, but it's very simple, you know, to do drama. There's a scene where Kurt Jurgens, who was the villain, is going to shoot a rocket at me under the table.
That's right.
And I was supposed to be standing behind the chair. And I said, you know, I don't think that it's quite so dramatic as if I'm sitting in the chair. Well, they'd built behind the chair steel so that I would be protected from the explosions. It didn't occur to Lunatic Moore. I sat in the chair and went, and the explosions went just before I got out of the chair. And so where most people have one hole, I have three.
Excellent.
And
I knew you were a versatile character.
it was very painful, I am telling you. But there were three terrible burns here, and I had to go for about a month.
Can you give us a look? I mean, the audience don't really believe that, I feel.
Well, it's now just scar tissue.
Oh, it's a disappointment, really.
But you know, at the end of every shooting day, I had to go to see the nurse at the studio and have my Vaseline dressings changed.
Oh.
Very embarrassing.
The script itself, I mean, it's deliberately appalling, isn't it, really? Every other line, you've got a gag, and you say it in such a way which just about saves it.
Well, that's it. The whole point is this is a romp. It is fun. It's entertainment. This is the problem today, I think, with a vast number of films. They are not entertaining. Yeah. And I like, when I go to the cinema, to be entertained. I do not want to come out feeling miserable. And I think a Bond film, you usually come out having had a good couple of hours of laughter and action.
Ian Fleming, who wrote the book, originally thought of you, actually, as the perfect James Bond. One of the producers told me that. Now, Bond is slightly ruthless in the books. He's certainly very, very vicious. He's a man of action. He adores beautiful women. What about you?
Well, that's why he thought I would be right for the part, because that's what I'm like.
For me. What are you like?
It's an acting part, isn't it? You know, they do say I don't act, but really, you know, I'm the world's worst coward, and of course, I look terribly brave. I mean, that is acting.
Yeah. The rumours are you were contracted to do 3 Bonds.
Mm-hmm.
This is your 3rd. And the rumours are that there's a bit of hassle going on now about you doing any more. What's the truth about that? Are you going to do another Bond or what?
Well, we're negotiating. But unfortunately, I was swimming a couple of weeks ago and got an ear infection, and I don't hear too well.
What's the problem? Do you not want to do it again?
No. It's a problem of dates, that I really want to know when we're going to start, and I have to lock out 6 months to a year of my career or my life to make the Bond film, and so I want to know when exactly it's.
Feeling the scriptwriters have written more and more humour to accommodate your interpretation of the part. Would you agree?
I suppose you have to make it funny if I'm in it. No, it's quite often since I've been doing it, and they may have done it with Sean as well, I don't know, I wasn't there, but a joke may be indicated in a script that doesn't work within the context of the scene when you're playing it or the set. And so, be it Guy Hamilton or Lewis Gilbert or John Glenn now directing, is say, you know, what do you want to say here? And do you have any ideas? And I say, have you got any ideas? And we probably do 6 or 7 takes, throwing in different punchlines, which I enjoy. I mean, that's an inventive part.
Roger, I wonder if you have made Bond less lethal. He seems to me now to be less of a cold killer, more reluctant. I know he's still licensed to kill, more reluctant to kill. Do you sense that as you pass through the films?
Well, I always played it with a certain reluctance to kill, because my only key to playing a Bond that I had from the books was at the beginning of one of Fleming's stories, where it said Bond was on his way back from Mexico, where he had eliminated somebody. He didn't like killing particularly, but he took a pride in doing his job well. And that's my key to it. I don't like killing.
As these films go on, they get more and more spectacular, no doubt about it, with Octopussy. You have the most incredible train and plane chases in which you're obliged to cling to both. How do you manage to do it? It's no secret that you're past your 21st birthday.
Am I? I didn't know that.
I read it.
How do I manage to do it? I tell you, I have glue on my shoes. That's how I stick on planes and trains.
But it must be quite an exertion for a man who perhaps would prefer to play chess or do the Times crossword.
No, yes, well, I don't know. I suppose I keep myself in shape. I always have done.
As a man, Roger, you are rich, and you are famous, and you look amazingly comfortable. Is life really that good?
Yes.
Anything
I've been
missing?
very lucky. Hmm?
Is there anything missing?
Well, I suppose from the ego point of view, it would be nice to sort of getting wonderful reviews in a marvelous play somewhere. But that is not the path I took. When I had the choice between Hollywood and Stratford, I took Hollywood. I was greedy.
I booked the seat and everything.
Did you get the money back?
Well, no. Well, yes, I demanded my money back. Because you were going to sing. And what happened?
I got cold feet.
That's not like you. You usually take your chances and everything.
No, yeah, but other people were relying on notes that I might be singing to come in with it. You know, that was... Singing Lloyd Webber is not like singing Another Bride, Another June in pantomime. Singing Lloyd Webber is opera. And I did not have the experience or the courage to do it.
Did it give you an awful lot of heart searching? Because I wouldn't have thought you were the kind of person who accepts something and then says, no, I can't do it.
Well, I didn't think I could do it in the first place. You see, it was Andrew saying, you can do it. He saw me on Dame Edna singing with Dennis Healey. And I think he meant Dennis Healey would have been right for the part. But
Aspects of love in Roger's personal life were also going through a change. A diagnosis of prostate cancer in 1993 prompted him to think hard about his future, and as he said, make some hefty decisions. One of them involving the end of his marriage to Louisa and marrying for the 4th time to Christina Tholstrup, a Scandinavian socialite. Another major decision was to take a step back from acting in favour of a new role as a goodwill ambassador for UNICEF, the United Nations Children's Fund. His friend Audrey Hepburn had asked him to get involved, and after travelling around the world's most glamorous locations playing Bond, now he was visiting some of the toughest places on the planet, trying to raise awareness of the problems faced by children.
the reason I became involved with UNICEF was, an interest in children and in their needs. And I'd done a number of things for UNICEF and things that were related to UNICEF. But I got a lot of facts and figures. And I thought, this is, you know, they're just facts and figures. You know, the fact that 40,000 children die a day.
A day?
And I want, yes, every 4 seconds a child dies. And while we've been, since you asked me that question, 3 have died. It's a frightening thought. Anyway, I wanted to see for myself what conditions were. And the only way I could do that would be an official representative. And so I signed up in New York as got the UN passport, the laissez-passer, and my button, and a contract. I get paid $1 a year, but it's free of tax. And off I went to Central America. And part of the things that I was doing was presenting the media awards, something that UNICEF gives to members of the press and television who have brought the plight of children to the world's attention during that previous year. And so I would have, in various countries, prepared speeches from UNICEF with the UNICEF message. And I found after the second country, those words were words, and I then had to speak from what I saw. I used to watch Audrey Hepburn, and I always felt that she slightly overdid it in her fundraising speeches, until I ended up in a hospital in Salvador, visiting. And I realized that she underplayed it. It became one of the toughest things I've ever faced in my life. To see what man can do, not only to fellow man, but to children. And to see the victims of kids that have trod on mines, that have trod on grenades. And you suddenly say, this life is fairly lousy, that people can do this. So it gives you more reason, more passion to get out and do the fundraising.
And Roger later explained how visiting impoverished war zones changed his view of himself.
Small, insignificant, and rather ashamed that I had traveled so much making films and ignored the poverty and the hardship that was going on around me.
Was it a wake-up call?
Oh, very much so. And I was exceedingly grateful to Audrey for having steered me in the right direction. The one thing that I now am so violently opposed to, the use of weapons and mines, that I didn't like that image of me going around the world holding the Walther PPK. And it appears rather heroic, and it's not.
The license to kill may not have been heroic, but Roger's long association with UNICEF certainly was. And he was suitably recognised for that work by a grateful nation. First with the CBE in 1999, and then with a knighthood 4 years later.
It's a recognition of UNICEF and the thousands of volunteers that are in UNICEF who never get recognized at all. It's just happened I have a name that became popular.
There's no arguing with that. And just how popular Roger was became even more abundantly clear with the sad announcement in May this year that he had died at home in Switzerland after a short battle with cancer, aged 89. The wave of affection expressed for this charming man was overwhelming and came from all corners of the globe. Perhaps not our best actor, but certainly one of our best loved and a true national treasure. Roger was adored for the twinkle in his eye, the joy his performances gave us, and of course that irreplaceable sense of fun. The song was right. Nobody does it better. So let's raise a glass and an eyebrow to the great Sir Roger Moore.